another episode of the SuperCoach Paige show. I'm Paige.
I'm Matt.
I'm Damon.
And this is Tarkin.
Yeah,
Yes.
Tarkin's just
mascot of the show. And kicking off the second last week in the SuperCoach season.
I know, after this we've got 1 week left of the year, so it's almost a bit sad that it's all wound down, but we're in the business end of the year now, which means that there's a lot of stuff to go on. But firstly, how was everyone's weekends?
Shithouse. I got the worst again. Abysmal captain choices really these past few weeks. So that's what we're going to be focusing on this week.
Yep.
I only got 2009 over the weekend. How about you two?
Well, I travelled into uncharted waters. Well, I haven't been in this area. Yes, it is. I haven't been in this area for a long, long time, and I actually beat both of you. So it was pretty exciting. I didn't even realise until like a day later.
I can't believe you actually won. That's amazing. Beat you by 9 points. I had 2,078. It was a horrible week this week. Cochin had a shocking score. Gaz had a shocking score. Unless you had Selwood, well, there wasn't really much to crow about because Heppel went down, Hanley got subbed, Thompson was a late withdrawal, Martin was terrible.
25.
Terrible. It was all happening basically, so we're happy to put that one behind us. So good on you for those of you who actually had the week off and could afford to have a pretty crummy week like us three. But this week is shaping up to be a little bit of a worry. But before we get into that, we have our ruck division of the All-Australian team, so we've only got the 4 to go through tonight, but kick us off, Damon. Who we got?
Alrighty, so the criteria that we're going with now is we need a player to score 13 80 plus scores, 15 100 plus scores, and 5 115 plus scores. So we're going to kick it off with Will Minson. He scored 20 80 plus scores, 15 100 plus scores, 9 of 115, and of course he's played all of the 20 games this season, and he's been in ripping form with an average of 110.9. So I've had him since I'd probably say mid-year, I think, yeah. And he's been travelling nicely. Had a bit of a purple patch there, and then slowed up, but he's been very reliable.
Well, next up on the list is North Melbourne's Todd Goldstein. He's had a fantastic year. Played all 20 games so far, and every game that he's played, he's scored over 80, which is pretty impressive. Of those 20 games he's played this year, 14 have been over 100, which is huge, and he's had 9 games of over 115, just like Minnow. So massive season for him. He's currently averaging 112, and since I brought him in, he's served me well. Big 124 on the weekend, so very impressive. Yeah,
and the two probably most popular options at the start of the season, they're on the bench. So Dean Cox is the first one. He's had 18 games of 80 plus, 10 games of 100 plus, and 6 of 115. Although those did include some really massive scores, like a 170 or something like that. Played 20 games, so all 20 games is averaging 105.2. So very good there, and probably the bargain pick at the start of the year was Matthew Leuenberger. 16 80 plus games, 9 100 plus, 5 115 plus, and that was for 18 games. So he missed a couple around the bye rounds, I think.
Yep.
But he's got 101.7 average, which was great for him.
He's really come back into form since coming in, and when everyone thought that he was going to be injured for a bit, he jumped in with some pretty big scores. So
massive scores.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And the talking point of this week, of course, is the Backline carnage.
Version 500.
Version 5, sorry, I can't forget that. It's been happening quite a lot this season. And to kick us off, I think we've got a few players to look at.
We've got a lot of players to look at. Heppel did his foot, I think, on the
weekend.
Yep, Hamish Ablett is out for 2 more weeks, so no more Supercoach for him.
I wouldn't blame him for being 2 more seasons, given his injury history.
Ricky Henderson out as well. Mitch Clisby got himself suspended a little while ago, and that's just for the backline. But Tom Nichols as well, Aaron Sandlins. There's so many injuries that we need to deal with, and it's not good, and there's a lot of 50-50s as well. Tell us about that, Paige.
Look, to start off with, Heath Shaw had a pretty average day on the track earlier in the week, so he's 50-50. He had a shocking game against the Hawks, but he's apparently carrying a bit of an injury, which isn't too good. Matthew Cruiser, well, he's still listed as a test as well to come back in, so it's been 2 weeks now that he's been out for. Should come back in. What do you think?
Yeah, I think he's a chance to come back against the Bombers, with Ryder coming back in for Essendon, Bell Chambers, did he get injured on the weekend?
Yeah, he's under a cloud as well.
Under a cloud, so if they both play, I think we probably will bring in Cruiser, because we can't really afford to have Warnock against those two. But if Cruiser's fighting fit, then don't see a reason why we wouldn't bring him in.
Yeah.
And we've got Garrick Ibbotson as well, who's been out for 3 weeks now. That Achilles is obviously a lot worse than initially thought. So that's really annoyed a few. I had to burn my last trade on the weekend on trading him and subsequently trade him for Hanley.
You've joined me finally now, Paige.
I feel for those people who did that during the year, the whole Joe Watson to Dangerfield getting injured. So that didn't work out either. And obviously Pierce Hanley with that hip flexor, he's 50-50 to line up this weekend. But since he signed the new deal, 5-year deal,
5 years,
that is huge and pretty much unprecedented. You don't see those sorts of things happen anymore.
He deserved it though.
Oh, look, definitely. He's been Brisbane's most consistent player this year. So for him as well, hopefully he comes back into the side. But when you add that up between Heppel, Hartlett, Henderson, Clisby, Nichols, Sanderlands, Shaw, Cruiser, Ibbotson, Hanley, Hanley, and obviously Scott Thompson was withdrawn last week too. So we've got some serious carnage on our hands. And when you look at all the defenders in that group,
there's not many left.
There's a small selection.
Corey Enright is probably the most consistent one that we've had over the past few years, and he's gotten back in some really good form lately. But with Geelong a lock for top 4 now, you probably get rested, which is something you really want to worry about. Wait until the teams come out and see what happens in that regard. But you know how Geelong likes to rest.
And given he's one of the elder statesmen down there at the Catter as well, wouldn't surprise me to see him. Given the week off, I think he's probably earned that. He's played just about every game this year. So, in saying that, Bryce Gibbs, Goddard, Hibbard maybe, Rob Murphy's one for mine, who's probably flown heavily under the radar. But the only issue you're going to have with him is that although he does have those games where he scores so well, he's going to still spit out those horrible 65 to 80, points. So that's where you have to sort of give and take there with him.
Probably be a bit wary about Gibbs as well, because he plays really well against Richmond, and then his form in the weeks before that was really
I'd say he's probably done for the season based on last week. That was his best and probably last performance.
So his best 2 games this year have been against both Richmond.
And also just look out for your smokies, your point of difference, because that's really what's going to be making the difference. Brandon Ellis again, he had a fantastic first quarter on the weekend, and then the Tigers have just had a much bigger workload at training, so they're tapering off at, it was half-time against Brisbane and quarter-time against Carlton, so I think that might even stay for one more week, but they're definitely going to ease off leading into the final series, so expect some big numbers out of them in the grand final week for SuperCoach.
I would say so too. And we have to have a look at the captains this week, which is a real focal point that we want to make a note of, given that majority of us do not have any trades left, and if we do, like yourself, we've only got 1 or 2. So a lot rides now on the captaincy. As you saw on the weekend, it can be the difference between winning and losing. So making that correct decision with your captain this week is paramount. So jump straight into things.
Well, I haven't had any captains for the past month and a half, so
exactly.
it's been holding me instead. So
it's been your only saviour. It hasn't really worked since last week, but that's about it.
That's because I'm relying on Selwood. He's helping me out.
Doing really well.
Now, Friday night, Collingwood take on the Eagles at the MCG, and to kick things off with the loophole, we're having a look at Dane Swan. His last 3 games against West Coast, he's registered 86, 117 and 116. But it's the 3 games prior to that against the Eagles where he's had 146, 149 and 163, which is some huge numbers to take note of. So if you've got Swanee, I would say his form at the moment is better than Pendlebury's. And I'd probably be more lenient in the way of putting the captaincy on him. But for those of you who do want to roll the dice with Pendlebury, he will play this week. He did just cop a bit of a knock. He's fine. Let's have a look. 139, 138 and 155 in the last 3 games. And that's since last year and the year before.
Against West Coast.
That is some solid scoring. And he's had a current average now of 125 too.
Yeah, so great form by Swan at the moment, but over the whole year. And, recent encounters against West Coast, it's Pendlebury. So really, toss it up. I would go with Swan. I just really like the way he's playing right now.
Yeah, I prefer Swan. I'm not really sure about Pendlebury's knock or niggle, so to speak.
Yeah,
Definitely. I'd go on current form as well. Definitely
Yep.
this one.
And moving on to Saturday, we've got a member of the Cats, Joel Selwood. Last 3 against Sydney, 101, 111 and 163, one big 163, and that was earlier this year. And the last 5 averages it, 139, so
Ooh.
in sensational form.
Yeah.
I don't have him, so I'm considering bringing him in for 5 or something
No,
like that.
I would, if you have the trade up your sleeve and you've got the luxury of having no issues elsewhere, don't know why you wouldn't think about bringing in Joel Selwood.
During the regular season, that would be considered a sideways trade, and we wouldn't do it. But during finals time, if you can give you that little bit more of an edge,
Yeah.
so like trading a 5, as you said, to someone who's in red hot form like Selwood, definitely do it.
And well, you just have to look at what the situation is with the defenders, because you'd much rather, be certain that everyone's going to be playing on the
exactly.
field. And moving back to Selwood, his last 3 games at Skilled Stadium, 133, 151 and 160.
So he's in some cracking
really
form.
good form.
And he doesn't look like he's going to be rested either. We did say that it's probably in more years gone by we've seen Geelong opt to rest players, but it really looks like they're just going to let them play out because Selwood hasn't missed a game this year.
And now that he's the captain as well, it's a lot less likely that he's going to be rested. He really needs to be out there, especially if they do bring in some young players. He needs to be out there to lead the brigade.
And it's not only that now, we've always said, and I actually said in my pre-season report on Joel Selwood when picking him as a starting premium, that the biggest knock on him was that he was never a goal kicker. And now he's kicked 10 goals in the last 3 games. 4 on the weekend, 4 the week previous. He's found, he's almost gone to a level, if that's even possible, because he's a 3-time premiership player and my God, he's in some sort of form that he might just pick Gaz for the Brown line.
Yeah, definitely.
I'd say that. And I was actually heard on the news last night about Joel Selwood's goal kicking ability. I think last year he only kicked 14, and over the past 4 or 5 weeks he's actually already met that target.
Well,
so
there you go. That just really underlines, and he's in some ripping ripping form.
He is.
So
Yeah, and you might actually get sucked in by a few other players. Like Fremantle have an easy run home, but like Barlow, for example, just tell us a bit about him.
Yeah, Barlow. He's they come up against Port, and in his last 3 against them, he scored 86, 80, and 94. But you think maybe if Fife gets most of the attention, that Barlow may be let off the leash. But even so, going by those last 3 against them, I wouldn't really be hanging my hat on him, and would
It's
rather
going to be a
offer
tough
someone
game
else.
because Port have a lot to play for, as do Fremantle.
yeah, exactly.
So, there should definitely be some attention being paid to Barlow and Fife as well. So going to be quite interesting there.
And next one, of course, is Sydney. They play. Who do they play?
Geelong.
Geelong, yeah.
Geelong, of
Geelong.
course. The Cannons, and Andy's behind the camera there, throwing his arms in the air. So and JPK, that is one. He's one to look out for. In his past 3 against Geelong, he scored 94, 105, and 80 with an average of 106.
Yeah.
So he might be one to go for him, and he's been up and down over the past month or so. Last week he scored alright.
Yeah, it was best on ground on the weekend, but the weeks before that it was absolute crap. So
Yeah, he's been heavily not only tagged, but given now that McVeigh's pushed to defence, and Hanbury and Jack are having career best years, and he's sort of now just playing that one-dimensional inside extracting role and not really getting the ball in the outside kicking goals like he's used to.
one point that I have to think of. Tom Mitchell wasn't playing on the weekend and he scored really well. And his scoring has been down ever since Tom Mitchell came in.
Good theory.
So I'm thinking that might be the link there.
Stay out! Stay out!
Get out of the side.
Keep him out of the side. I don't know, you can bring him back during finals.
Yeah, that's
AFLs.
fine.
Do what you like.
Very nice.
Keep him out of the side for at least 1 more week. I'll be happy about that.
2 weeks.
2, sorry. Yeah, I'm getting ahead of myself.
And who else we got? Gary Ablett in awful form lately. Basically, ever since I brought him in,
Asshole.
scored 88,
Your fault.
88 average over the past 3 weeks. Last 3 against the Saints though, 143, 64, which was where he got a bit of an injury knock.
Yeah,
so
got that knee injury.
can't really fault him for that. And round 1 this year, 178. So very good form against the Saints, who are woeful this year. Who knows if he's going to be able to turn his form around. Last score at Etihad Stadium was a 147 against Essendon in round 12. So they don't play there that often.
No.
But when they do, the Suns, he tends to score quite well.
Well, it'll be an interesting one from him because he's really been under the weather the last couple of weeks, and funnily enough, ever since Sportsbet paid out on Gary Ablett to win the Brownlow maybe 4 or 5 weeks ago.
Yeah.
He has just gone downhill.
That's actually what happened with Judd, I think, in 2011.
2011, yeah.
They pat out him, and of course Dane Swan went on to win it. And yes, they stuffed him up, I think.
At least that was a legitimate round, unlike last year's.
Yeah.
So, go Cochin.
Funny enough.
Next up is Brett Deledio. This is a Sunday game against GWS. Now, the Tigers have only played GWS once in the regular season, and that was for a 132 by Deledio. But in the preseason, he scored 160 against them. Now, I know NAB Cup form is but GWS...
What is it?
GWS really does, they go out to try and win those sorts of games because, Richmond's not going to be trying full out in the preseason, so it's a chance for GWS to get a win. But 160, it can't really be ignored. He tends to really bully the lesser teams, Brett Deledio.
He should really, I think they would really like to bounce back properly this week
They need to.
after last week, and they would like to, I know you're saying they're probably going to lean off a little bit, but they'd still like to meet finals football with some good form in their hands. And I think this weekend, guys like McDonald who play on the weekend for his debut, and unfortunately for Liam McBean, who did an ankle in the VFL on the weekend, would have made his debut. So good opportunity to get some good strong game time into these kids beforehand, and I'd probably expect Richmond to have a big win and Brett Deledio to get on the end of a big score.
Yeah, very big.
And one final one to look at, and I wish I had him, was Ryan Griffin. He's in ripping form at the moment, and in his last 3, I think it's his last 3 against Brisbane, isn't it?
Yep.
He scored 115, 102, and 138, which was in round 1. And his average at Etihad overall is 125, and in his last 4 at Etihad, he scored 140, 102, 126, and 114.
So that's some pretty big numbers.
That's massive.
He did have that off game on the weekend. This is before that. So he had like 79 on the weekend against Adelaide. He was pretty lucky to get that because he was very well tagged. But
I'm sure he didn't care. The Dogs won.
Yeah, exactly. The Dogs had to come from behind 22 points, so you'd be pretty happy about that. But look, I'd still back him in against the Lions this week, who are probably in struggle street themselves.
Yeah. So who are we going captain this week, each of us? I'm leaning Swan. I think I'm going to put in that. No loophole crap.
No, I'm a loophole lover, so I'm probably going to go with Swanee for the loophole. But if it doesn't work out, you can't go past Joel Selwood. He's unstoppable at the moment, and as we've seen, I mean, we saw that patch where Ablett was just pumping out 140s week in, week out. You couldn't overlook him for the captaincy.
It's Selwood now.
It is so Selwood. To think when we were putting this captain's part together that we actually left out Gary Ablett by mistake because he's been that quiet. So that really sums up where he's at, and I would not be touching Gary Ablett given this form.
Yeah, I won't be touching him until I see like a return to form from him. Even though he needs to, I think for his sake, I think he's being rivaled by Selwood in terms of the Brownlow being up for grabs. So he needs to actually come out and perform.
Yep.
But I think I'm going to be like you, Paige, and go the loophole with Dane Swan and stick the captaincy on.
I reckon so too. And next week the Cats are again at home to Brisbane, so it's
they're going to really want to hit the finals running.
Exactly.
He should be in quite good form there. But that about wraps up the prelim final.
It's the prelim. So good luck. I hope you make the grand final and you get to do your grand final march during the week and have a bit of a bragging sesh that you've made it there. And to everyone that are in cash leagues or charity leagues or anything like that, good on you, and hope that you get in this week. But we'll be back for the last episode next week, and on the Facebook page during this week, you're going to have the opportunity to elect some awards that you think should be given out, whether they are funny, serious, not so serious. We're going to go on a Rampage, that's my actual team name, and Rampage FC, and we're going to give out some awards for some pretty, let's just say funny things that have happened during the year. So we'll let that go for this week.
As well as the All-Australian forwards.
And yes, the forwards next week.
Make sure to put in a guess of who you think those are on the Facebook page when we put up the question there.
That's it, no worries.
That's all for this week. Go Tigers.
Go Pies.
Go Blues.
Go Cats.
Go Cats.